Alright guys, quick challenge for you. Give me your absolute worst description of a dragon that's still technically accurate. Alright, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Hello nuts and nerds and welcome back to a Squirrel Plays. Today we're going to be talking about dragons. That's right, big scaly fire-breathing lizards. And why are we talking about dragons? Because I like them and screw the algorithm, that's why. But also, if you think about it, it's a little bit strange that this channel is about storytelling and ttrpgs, and not once have I talked about them. So I'm going to do something about that. And if people want, maybe in another video, I'll go into the deep lore of the dragons I made in my own Knight universe. But for today, we're going to be looking at things like what types of roles are dragons good at, what other creatures can be used in place of a dragon if they don't exist in your world, what even are dragons. And you know what? I should probably start with that last one.
Country roads, take me home to the lake.
They're a bunch of no good cat-picking, fire-breathing, scaly toad, town-squishing, maiden-grabbing, treasure-stealing devil lizards. Yeah.
Yeah, you tell 'em, Bubba.
I belong West Virginia.
Alright, so more seriously, dragons do come in all shapes and sizes, and that's really not something we're going to dwell on too much today. Although, that could be fun looking into all the different types as well as their origins and history, because I definitely appreciate the many books and various media bits out there on such things. Mayhaps another video for another time. But for the sake of this video, and I apologize to all the dragon scientists out there, I will be using the term dragon very broadly. No wyverns, worms, or any of that. They're all just going to be dragons today. Right now, we're just trying to figure out how to get the most out of your dragon, or whatever creature you have posing as one. The first question to ask yourself is, what is it you need it to do? What are you trying to accomplish here? What is the point?
I don't know, man, but it keeps me up at night.
Well, there's a blast from the past. Anyway, unless your dragon is the main character of the story, we need to figure out their role in this story. Are they there to challenge the main character in some capacity? Are they the main villain, the threshold guardian, comic relief, a partner to the main character, or a catalyst to a major event? See, dragons, being the super cool magical lizards they are, can fill quite a few roles other than just being a big beast to go slay. But that's not to downplay that role either. Reignoffire took the approach of dragons being pretty much just giant and very dangerous animals. No magic and no higher intelligence that I remember. And, you know, that was a movie. It existed.
All right.
So for the sake of time, let's just rapid fire a few roles they can fill. Technically, you can make a dragon fill whatever role you want. It's your writing, not mine, and whether or not it's good is pretty subjective. So do what feels right for you and your project. First up is probably the most basic, and that would be to challenge your main character. Doesn't have to be just the main character, it could be the main character's entire homeland. Next question would be, is the dragon intelligent and or capable of speech? Personally, I am a big fan of dragons that can talk, but living in a world where you have to consider dragons that are basically just wild animals is pretty interesting. This was actually something I hadn't considered for the longest time, and it was briefly mentioned in one of Skallagrim's videos when he was collaborating with Matt Easton, I think his name is, and talking about what would make sense in a fantasy world. They went on a small tangent about how the existence of dragons would shape how things were developed, such as boats being built to deal with dragon attacks while at sea. Fun fact, I actually tried to talk Skallagrim into a collab, and while he seemed a bit interested in the idea, it ultimately didn't pan out. But getting back on topic, that is something that would really shape your world. Now imagine that, but the dragons are actually intelligent. I don't think people would make it. And speaking of intelligent dragons, let's get back to challenging the main character. Boy, I'm just doing great today, aren't I? Let's say there's a dragon terrorizing the land, or you know what? Let's say it's supposedly terrorizing the land. Maybe it was just defending its home. We don't know. But the people are convinced it's a monster that's got to go. A group of knights journey their way to the big beast, and by the end of it, it's down to just the dragon and the main character. The main character is scared, and for good reason, but instead of being devoured by the dragon, it starts talking to him and asks why he's here. The hero, very confused, says he has come to slay the dragon and save his people. Again, the dragon asks why, to which the hero says, because you're a monster. The dragon, of course, laughs in response.
I've seen the sins you humans commit. Villages and towns wiped clean and castles leveled. And for what? In the name of some deity you claim to be real? In your arrogance you have willingly burned your own at the stake and ignored their cries for mercy. Tell me, brave warrior, what sin have I committed that is so great it makes the guilty feel righteous? Or is it merely my existence you see fit enough to damn for an eternity?
Now the hero has a bit of a different challenge to face. See, dragons are dangerous enough as it is, but an old wise dragon that's been around for a while is even more dangerous. It'd be awfully dangerous if you didn't like and subscribe. But that depends on what you want your character to go through. Is bravery against physical danger the journey they need to have, or is it emotional and moral conflict? Now, I kind of spent a little too much time on that last one, which is a little bit embarrassing because I said I was going to rapid fire through some of these roles. Oops. To make up for it, I'm going to use a dragon from my own story because she filled multiple roles at the same time. She was a good friend to the main character, and the first role we see her fill is comic relief. Despite her massive size and incredible power, she was still able to be the comic relief by having her knowingly play into the stereotypical dragon tropes of hoarding treasure and being scary. And because she was a very close friend to the main character, she was also able to challenge him mentally and emotionally. She posed difficult questions at times, testing the main character's morals. This also allowed the character to grow and develop and let the reader see some of his inner workings and how he thinks. And yes, very tiny spoiler alert, but she does end up breaking him at some point, which is a major turning point in the story. She was an extremely supportive character throughout that entire story, both in the sense of developing the main character, but also just getting him from point A to point B in a timely manner. And because she was a dragon, it was fun to make her way over the top for her comic relief scenes. So as you can see, the two dragons we talked about had very different roles. One tried to tear down the main character, and the other tried to build them up. Skyrim does some pretty cool things with dragons too. Alduin is the bringer of the end times, the world eater, if you will, which is a pretty cool name. He's not just a big scary dragon. He is the literal end of the world and the fulfillment of a prophecy. Then you have Pathrunox, or however you say that guy's name, the old wise man on the top of the mountain who is struggling with his own nature. Anyway, I don't know if I made a point or not, but there you go. All right, so let's say your setting doesn't have dragons for one reason or another. Maybe it doesn't make sense, or maybe you just don't want them. What can you use to fill that void? Mouse Ritter uses cats, and honestly, I think that's a perfect fit. They may not be able to fly or breathe fire, but I think their high and mighty personalities can certainly be a good fit. And if you've ever had a pet cat, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But what about a science fiction world? Technically, you could absolutely still have a dragon if you're out exploring new planets. Nothing says you can't find a planet that has, well, giant flying lizards. Shoot, even Star Wars has giant lizards, so that's cool. But what if you had a rogue experimental AI escape from its testing facility? Not rogue in the sense that it's out to kill everyone, as is the norm for rogue AIs, but in the sense that it's confused and running away. It starts out controlling a tiny little robot, then salvages other parts and pieces to get bigger and bigger and bigger to try and defend itself, or just to get bigger so it can escape wherever it needs to go. It takes whatever it can get, making it look like a bit of a walking mess instead of a killer death machine, as you can see by my fantastic artwork here. It's a scared and curious creature, in other words. Its communication might be limited, and because it ran off to protect itself, it never really learns how to communicate properly. Rumors spread of this giant and wild machine, and of course, people try to hunt it down, which just leads to it being more reclusive or perhaps aggressive. If you're in a more watery setting, giant fish creatures lend themselves well to the idea. If you haven't seen the movie Flow, I want you to stop this video right now and go watch it because it's a super good movie. 10 out of 10. And don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything. It's too good for that. That movie has a very interesting water creature in it that I think fills a potential dragon role very, very well. Heck, you could even say Moby Dick is like a dragon. Imagine a crazed knight obsessed with hunting a very specific dragon. And this nonsensical thinking kind of brings me all the way back to the beginning of this video. What even is a dragon? For me, I think it's their sense of wonder and the unknown. They're things that we don't understand or control. That means they could be something sneaky and tricky that trick the heroes of the story, which, funnily enough, is what a skrat actually is. They could be something super destructive, or they can be incredibly helpful. Unpredictable would be a good word to use, and I will also add that I don't think size really matters, despite me typically leaning towards the larger side of things. Big or small, they can still have a significant impact on the world or the heroes. Or both. And there you go, a video that didn't make any kind of point whatsoever, but you know what? I think that's okay, because I know just throwing random ideas at the wall and seeing what sticks can be helpful at times. So hopefully something here stuck and gave you a little inspiration to work with. If not, here's hoping it was at least entertaining. But you know what that means? Shout out time! Today's shout out goes to the official yellow duck, because we don't allow phonies around here. Nothing but the real stuff. But also because he recognizes a PowerPoint professional when he sees one. And if you haven't seen that abomination of a video this comment is on, I guess you can go watch that. And for the newer folks around here that don't get it, I have a very unorthodox way of making my videos. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one.